Hey guys, okay, we're back on again. I'm gonna wait for Terry to get back on. We just had to stop the live because he couldn't hear anything I was saying. So I hope you guys can hear me. Hopefully it was just something on Terry's side. So we'll see how it goes. Can you guys let me know if you hear me properly? Hopefully you guys can let me know if you guys can hear me. Let's see, you can see that Terry's, made a request. Oh, this view. Go, should be coming on in a minute. So just to give everyone an update, can you hear me better now?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, so I'm just gonna give everyone an update. I'm gonna be putting the
Sure.
two videos together, but so we got to see a view of Terry's place, the flip that he just did. So, and then now we're gonna get on to the numbers. So after this, I'll put the videos together so that we can actually, so that everyone can get the full view. But at least for right now, at least people can know what we're talking about. So we've already seen his house. And now, Terry, do you want to run through the numbers?
Yeah, sure. I just can't stop looking at this kitchen. As much as a pain in the ass as it was to put it together, I really, really like it. And you're not supposed to. They say don't get caught up in your own work, but damn. I just, like if I don't have any before pictures on my phone to share, but I can probably send them to you if you'd like later on. But yeah, it's crazy, what the difference is. Most of the people who've been in contact and who've been seeing the demolition side who are checking in now, they're like, no way, that's the same house. There's absolutely no way. So I know exactly. I'm just looking at it. I'm like, well, wow, what we went through.
That's great. So let's talk about the numbers. So what did you buy this place for? So like again, just to recap, this is a 3 bedroom
Three
upstairs.
bedroom bungalow.
There's two downstairs also, right? It's a 3 plus 2. Oh, it's three altogether?
No, 3 plus 3 in the basement.
Oh, it's 3 plus 3. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. With three
So
bathrooms, two in the basement and one upstairs.
that's correct.
Mhm. So how much did you buy this house, your bungalow for?
So are we talking about purchase price or all-in price?
The purchase price. What did you purchase the house for?
So purchase price was $880,000 Canadian in Mississauga.
Hmm. And I feel like those numbers are scary for a lot of people, especially for flips. So that's great that you
Uh,
do these kind of things because I don't know, I notice even, people get scared from the numbers. So now how long was your project for? How many months did this project run for from close to close?
so we had planned on about 3.5, maybe 4 months. It is from close to close 6 months or just under 6 months, but we can round up. This is way more than we anticipated because you buy it a certain way, so you solve a certain problem, but you also take a certain risk on. I have something that I call, and actually some of my mentors call it the same thing. It's called a stupid tax. So the less you know, the higher that tax is. So if you didn't foresee something, build in a cushion for yourself to absorb that issue. And so we absorbed it fairly well. Just took longer than expected. But hey,
Okay,
we're happy with the product.
so it was supposed to be 6 months. You were
No,
expecting, no, sorry, what 6 months? How long were you expecting it to be? 3 months.
3 to 4 months.
3 to 4 months, like close to close? Okay, so it
Yeah.
was just gonna be like tidying it up kind of thing. Like it wasn't supposed to get done as much as you were expecting to get done.
Yeah, we were expecting kitchen, washroom, flooring, paint, windows. We weren't expecting full basement, copper, plumbing. We weren't expecting copper electrical. We weren't expecting full electrical. We weren't expecting a few things, so to speak, here and there. Just doing the whole house in electrical. That's not a $2,000 job. That's a 20-something thousand-dollar job. Same thing with
Yeah.
plumbing. Same thing with waterproofing and other stuff. So yeah.
So how much did the renovation come to?
Including without paying myself, because I am the general contractor for my own flips. I manage them, I acquire them, and I sell them. So I'm kind of saving in a lot of space, like in a lot of places. My total renovation cost was about $136,000, all in. Not all in. There will be a few more expenses here and there, but that's not relevant to the current numbers. That's just like maybe $1,000 worth of remaining outstanding, like not permit closures, but just like things that'll come back from contractors, like, hey, we found a receipt or something like that. But it's about 136. We can round it up to 140,000.
Okay. And so how much did you expect the renovations to be?
So we had different tiers of what we wanted to do. I always plan out in multiple ways, whether it's a whole tail or a lipstick, or where we ended up doing the whole damn thing. But we had different tiers. We had anywhere between high 90s to exactly where we were, 130, 140. If we really wanted to have that cushion built in, it was maybe 150, 160. But I had estimated between 115 to 133, somewhere there. And we landed right at 136 or 133, somewhere there. So we're right on our target numbers, including our unforeseen costs.
That's good. And I guess because you had the different tiers, then I guess you must have been like, okay, we'll have to like maybe sacrifice on one part to still stay in the budget because we have to fix other things, or
no? So my stupid tax covered my full problem costs. So I had not anticipated $20-ish thousand of things behind the walls, like electrical, plumbing, and a few things here and there. And for that cost, that's exactly what I had budgeted in for, just in case we ran into it, and it absorbed the entire amount. So what we projected, we would have been under, but we ran into issues, so we're right on.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great that you were able to stay within the budget, even though the issues came up. And I think that's something that I think with experience becomes normal. I feel like you start even with experience, start noticing, even normal, unforeseen, if that makes sense, things.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I need to buffer in this much, because you just start realizing that what your buffer zone even starts becoming.
Exactly. So one of the main things that was drilled in, or at least that I took away from a lot of my early real estate education, was don't kid yourself. Everything changes that's not in your control. So if you don't make if you don't make your own products, you can't guarantee its pricing. You can't guarantee anything. So just build in a little bit. So even if you build in a little bit of cost to each section, like plumbing, electrical, roofing, windows and doors, floors, and you have, let's say, a buffer of $10,000 at the end of all that, and you forgot about it later, you at least have that $10,000. Whereas I add on top of that. So I add a certain dollar amount for the size of my flips. So for smaller flips, obviously it's less, but if I didn't add that, I would tell my investors, hey, I only need, let's say, $96,000 will be good. And then I come back with them with a bill of 136. They're going to go, okay, buddy, you're maybe about 30% off of what you said. That is way too much. We did not discuss that. We were stretching ourselves at 96. Go get out of here. We never want to deal with you again. Right? And if anything, I would have to put that myself. So, it worked out very well that just anticipated, right? Expect the unexpected.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a very good point. And so how much were your holding costs through the 6 months?
My holding costs are estimated to be just around $22,000. That's including taxes, insurance, maintenance, and a little miscellaneous things like hydro and property maintenance and here and there. But it's estimated at 22,000.
Okay.
Obviously, until we close, we won't have the full accounting. But
yeah, but I mean, rounding up, no big deal.
Yeah. I'm rounding up always. Yeah. So when you're talking to people regarding your numbers, you're giving them a realistic conservative number of what you're going to deliver, and then you supersede it. So undersell and over deliver, right? So
Yeah.
it's the same thing with the numbers, right? Just because you think you can get it for less, make sure you include taxes, make sure you include waste, make sure you include everything.
100%. That's a very good point that you're making because it's always better to make sure you have a lot of padding for your numbers because if you go under, that's just like you're winning. But if you're having to go over, even like exactly you said, your investors may not be happy or may not tell you until like it happens that maybe exactly like that was like their max. And then you
Yeah,
need to screw over because if you do need to put in more money and they're not as liquid as you would expect or because they didn't say anything because maybe lack of experience they're just like oh yeah 90,000 perfect I got it and then it's like oh but maybe could go to 120 and they're just like oh but that's another 20K is could be a lot of
yeah.
money for a person right so
Well, these are not small numbers to begin with. So, every conversation I have with potential partners are like that. But yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's apart from making your money in the buy, the second most important is your budget. Done. End of conversation there. That's like I said. I do three different scenarios: wholesale it, lipstick it, full renovation, and we go based on what we encounter. We're ready for each scenario, which is why when I had to order extra materials and a second and third bin for disposal, it wasn't a oh no, do I tell someone? It was hey, so we're going with scenario B.
Yeah, exactly. And with that approach, actually, that's another good point because with that approach, at least you know that they have the money for the maximum budget, right? Because at least in that way,
Yeah,
it's like maybe we may not, maybe the intention is not to go there by any means, but at least you know that the money partner or the people you're getting on have that money available so that if
that's
the
correct.
situation happens, at least the money is there and people aren't scrambling to be like, now what are we gonna do? We need to pull another 20K from where? Who knows?
Yeah,
So good.
exactly. And to add on to that, I have my own reserve funds hidden in the background for any such worst case scenario. But that's not what I'm banking on. We're always preparing for the worst, hoping and working towards the best. So it's exactly what you're saying. So it didn't happen. But if my partners did say, hey, Terry, 100 grand, we're done. We could push that, 4K more, but that's it. I have that difference covered.
100%.
Or
Totally.
I have that capital available in general from other partners.
And so now, if I'm sure everyone's curious to know, so what did you sell it for and how much profit are you expecting to get out of
The main question.
it?
Okay, so our list price was 998,000 on the MLS. Our final sale price was 1,200,000.
Oh, wow. And so your
Yeah.
profits were?
So our I guess rounded profits are at $125,000, 126, but sure, let's say 120, just in case a couple of unexpected costs. But yeah, it's around there.
That's amazing. Congratulations. It's always amazing when you get those surprises, right?
Yeah. I mean, it and regardless of how it turned out, whether we made a little bit more or a little bit less, the learning curve, the COVID experience, the whole A to Z, I already know what I'm willing to accept and what I'm not willing to accept. So I'm already not as surprised when we have the results, but I do like what we're doing and I'm happy with the results and so are the partners. So they've already made a commitment and put a deposit in on our next flip. So as soon as this one closes, 2 weeks later, we have our next one closing.
That's awesome. Congratulations for your guys' win. That's awesome, and that's amazing that
Thank
you
you,
guys
thank you,
are continuing forward with your next flip. And so now
thank
let's
you.
get on to the problems, because I feel like this is also a very important segment because it's always so important to understand, like, yeah, we're making so much money, but it comes with problems. But at the same time, we're entrepreneurs that solve problems too. So, what problems came up in this project?
If you can name a problem, we encountered it, most likely. Apart from the super duper scary ones where someone gives you a call like, hey, your house is on fire, or hey, it's falling down. We didn't have anything like that. And I hope we never will. But just about any other regular type of problem, it's $20,000 electrical bill, unexpected plumbing bill, all that stuff, drywall, full basement of that whole thing was, let's just say, they doubled our timeline. And now you have to source all those materials unexpectedly. I mean, I do, like I said, I do have a plan for it, but you know, you still got to execute on it and call everybody and go, hey, no, we need you for longer. Same thing with your neighbors. We have an issue with neighbors. Elderly couple, I can't say we were making much noise apart from the first week of demolition, but let's just say either something we did or something somebody said set them off, and they call the city on us. So whether you're doing it correctly, incorrectly, by permit, by code, by inspection, by whatever, they don't care. They show up, and now you need to deal with them. It's kind of like if you get pulled over by a cop. Whether it was you or the next guy, you got pulled over, now you got to deal with it. So inspector comes by.
What happens when the city comes?
You open the door and bend over. You open the door and bend over. That's how that goes. But on a realistic note, it could have been worse. You know, I just cleaned everything up, was very open, let them through, answered as many questions as they had, showed them, told them they obviously have a record of permits, so everything that was permitted they can see, and anything that wasn't they would have asked. So we didn't have, so to speak, we didn't have any city cease of work orders, or there's something like that. There's a certain wording to it, but they didn't shut down our site because we were generally very clean, didn't provide any kind of real issues, and we had our permits, and everything was fairly good. We had one team in at a time, just generally prepared for COVID. So, you know, one team at a time, wear your mask, sanitization, cleaning, all those sorts of little things. And the inspector came by and said, hey, I see you're trying. Obviously nothing is going to be 100%. So he's like, hey, like, you know, if I really wanted to bother you, I could give you an issue about that. Or even the shed. He made a comment on the shed. None of the work inside was an issue. The one thing that he mostly said was like, hey, that's not legal. As a new owner, you now have to deal with that. Especially if there's, is it easement rules for hydro lines or for anything else. And the shed is on a concrete slab where it should not be. But this was done 50 years ago. From my understanding, the shed is still original. So he was like, if I really wanted to cause an issue, I could based on that. But we found out that, you know, everything is fine with it. And it generally, he just gave us a seal of approval, closed the complaint, and we moved forward. But it could have really been worse. There was a lot of little bit of, hey, I need to see this. Or he could have made Swiss cheese out of the house if there was any kind of real issue, right? That's the one thing that any renovator is worried about.
Yeah, those are always very hard situations. So what do you think? Because I feel like sometimes, I don't know if there is, sometimes like you can be like the best person in the world, like treating your neighbors well, and this still happens. Like, what would you recommend to people to, or even what did you do to, I guess, try to soften the issue a bit with them? Because I mean, once the city came in, they were okay with everything. Did the neighbors like try to do anything else, or were you trying to just calm the neighbors down, or what happened?
Oh yeah, for sure. So anywhere you go, whether it's a rental or flip, just add it to your standard operating procedure as bring a bottle. Doesn't have to be expensive, but bring a bottle and introduce yourself to your neighbors. I'm on the corner a lot, so I technically really have just one neighbor next to me, and the one behind is kind of like really behind, but still we introduce each other, like introduced one another two, and it was fine. Very cooperative on one side. Just this guy, he avoided me for 4 months. I didn't see the guy. I didn't know he existed or who he was. And then the city came in, and then only after that did he finally like speak to us. So I tried shoveling his snow up to past his property. I tried, cleaning things up. I tried, painting the shed, just like anything that would influence him. And eventually he softened up a little bit. But what I didn't do is I didn't knock on his door with a bottle right away. So that may have been better.
So that's interesting. He was your back neighbor?
No, side neighbor on the left.
Oh, he was your side neighbor. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, you don't ever think to give a bottle, let's say, to the back neighbors, because you'll try to you want to obviously try to make as good as you can with both side neighbors. So
you have to be aware. You have to be aware. So the neighbors across the road, no problems, best buddies. Anything we need, anything he needs, we're really easy. I think I made a new friend. But back neighbors, quieter Italian family, but still no problems. Anything, please communicate. He was very helpful just with the history of the house, because he's one of the original owners, I think, or if not original, then he's been here for most of the last 50 years. So, or 60 years. So, he knows the area. He gave me a good debriefing on the history of the house and anything that was okay or not okay with it. So that was a huge resource. But just the guy on the left was an issue. So, honestly, just walk up to your neighbors, introduce yourself. So, taking my own words and acting on them. Before closing on the next property, we've already walked up to the next flip neighbors and knocked on the door and introduced ourselves, gave them our contact information, brought them a bottle of wine, and said, if you have any concerns, we would like to know first. Let's do this, knowing that this kind of thing can happen where a city knocks on your door and you're shut down, which didn't happen, unfortunately, but it could, and we're trying to avoid that.
And agreed with you. Giving the contact information is very important, because we also had a very similar situation. I mean, the city wasn't called or anything, but we did actually talk to our neighbors, even I think our front neighbors too. We kind of just made sure, because it's such a small street that it's also easy even to piss people in front, because if we're blocking, with trucks and stuff. But we actually had a situation where, like that, we started demo and it's a semi. So shaking the house up.
Yes.
We gave him the number of, he had my number, but he didn't have my husband, which is there on site, right? So, but luckily he had at least my number to call me first, I'm sure, because he was almost ready to be like, I don't know what to do. These people are shaking up my house, things are falling off the walls, right? And if he didn't have the contact information, he probably would have just been like, I'm going to tell the city, because it's probably the easiest route for him if he didn't have the contact information. But like that, he had mine, so luckily he called me, because normally we give both. We do give my husband's because he's there all the time, right? But I don't know what happened. For some reason, he only got mine. But luckily that, because he obviously also didn't want to intrude into the house and be like, hey guys, you guys are, making too much noise, right? They always want to make a call or whatever. So contact information, I feel like, is also a very key, important thing to give.
So even going a little bit further, if you're really strategizing, this is a fully detached and we had issues. On a semi-detached, you should expect it, which is why overall I try to stay away from condos and those kinds of buildings where you've got one above you, one below you, one to the side, one in every direction. You can't please anybody at that point. You're just expecting to get bombarded with issues. My sister did a renovation like that, and she had that. So, but here, it's a little better, not as bad, but definitely something to, even if for example, you have a downturn in the market and you need to keep the property to hold it, you go from, I'll be out in a couple of weeks to, oh shit, I'll be out in a couple of years. And now you really want to have that built relationship with that neighbor.
100%. Yeah, because you just don't know what the outcome could be. Like you said, you got to prepare for any situation. So becoming best friends with the neighbors is a very important part of our job, especially for flips. specifically because you're doing such like crazy renovations that noises can bother, mainly it's the noises, the dirt.
Yeah.
We also had problem with a lot of dust at one point. So it's just like there's so many little things that you may not think can bother the neighbors until it happens. So it's just like you gotta keep that relationship as solid as possible. So at least they come to you first and not to someone else, to the city.
Yes. Absolutely. So, on our last flip, we didn't have an issue with the neighbors, but neighbors did get a little bit nosy once they saw the nice things going in the house, and so I just at one point just bought a temporary phone number and pasted it in the front window and said, if you got questions, just let me know. Stop being a pain in the ass. And they just called me instead, and I was like, yeah, it's a lot easier to deal with if it's a one-on-one as opposed to like through a neighbor or through something else or through a contractor. Same thing here. Our
Directly, right? It's just so much easier when it's like
yeah,
direct.
yeah. So even I'll tell you a little bit further. So even a little bit to the point where I can't verify it 100% because I don't have a camera on site yet, or at least not at this flip. On the next flip, I will put a full camera system in as we're doing the flip. Apparently, our friendlier neighbors noticed that our unfriendly neighbors were snooping around the house. I don't know if they tried to get in because I don't know, but my understanding was that they were looking in through the basement windows and all the upper windows that they could reach, and this and that, and on multiple occasions. So I mean, like you could just ask, it's a renovation. I'll show you when. It's not a secret. You're going to see it. If not today, you're going to see it in a month. But
That's really funny you say that because we actually had a person. So this was we did a full full renovation, like a full gut job on our personal home that we live in right now.
mm,
And I guess these people didn't realize that we are living the home and we're also doing the renovation. And talking about noisy is really funny because I was at work, my husband's working away. Actually, I wasn't even living at the house. I was still living at my other house because like we did a full gut job, so it wasn't
yeah,
visible, right? So my husband's here working on the house. Like these people, no issue, come into the door. Like neighbor comes, open the door, just starts walking through, and my husband comes running up. He's like, "Excuse me, what do you need?" And he's just like, "Oh, I'm just looking," and he's just like, "You're just coming into my house like that?" And he's like,
yeah,
"Oh, it's okay." And the guy's like, no, he's like, I'm the owner of this house. Like, you can't just come into my house like
yeah,
not that. He said the guy's
yeah,
fully with no issue. It's just like open the door, looking into seeing what we're getting done in the house. And I just found that
yeah,
really hilarious. I couldn't believe it. And it was just like, wow. That's because I think that's another thing, right? When you do flips and like they think only contractors in there and it's not like owners, they feel
yeah,
like they're allowed to do things because it's like they're not being rude because it's really not like the owner or something.
yeah.
Like people think they can come into houses because like the owners aren't living there or something, and it's like just contractors.
Yeah. Whatever your reasoning is for doing it, just don't. But I mean, like if you really want, just ask. The second level up from that is just ask.
Yeah, exactly. It's very true. It's really funny. So any other problems? I feel like we really went into this one.
No, well, it's a big one. As intangible as it is, it can become monetarily crucifying immediately.
Exactly.
Just shutting down your site.
It's very true. 'Cause, I mean, if you didn't get permits and you didn't do things the right way,
Yeah,
100%, like
you'd be
this
screwed.
probably would have been a worse situation, and who knows what you'd be dealing with if you didn't do things right and these people were complaining.
So those were the main issues. There were typical issues like, hey, your corners aren't straight. Hey, the floor is a little bit like this. Hey, we don't know. Oh man, oh my goodness, the kitchen, the biggest issue that I'm forgetting probably. So on top of getting a referral for a contractor for a kitchen, a new contractor for a kitchen, because I'm really trying to systematize everything and build relationships with contractors. So if somebody else has used them, I'd like to try too, and maybe they work for me. Not the case. Timeline, astronomically off. Holdups, way off. Price was good, but now I know why it was so good, because nothing else was. I asked them to come back so many times. I had to do some work myself after them and before and during. Let's say for a technical standard, or for an acceptable standard of what I would call flooding a house, the kitchen guys flooded my house. So everything is done, kitchen's going in. We have high flow, 3/4 inch PVC pipes in the house, which means it's not, you know, when you're standing in the shower, you turn it on and it just barely hits your chest, or when you stand on it and it fully goes on you. That's the difference. Like high flow means lots of water all the time. And I warned them, I'm like, hey, we've got high flow valves. And I typically don't turn the water off because everything else is done. Like, why would it leak? We're testing everything to see if it leaks while we're here. Water is on. Somehow, the blame is yet to be shared, but somehow the water valve for the kitchen faucets went off. And when I say went off, I mean it went off so hard that the dining room was wet from across the house. And I was fully aware that that could happen, in the sense that, hey, it should very much, like, it should not happen, but I know that our work is so good that it's going to have that much pressure. Not only did they not turn it off immediately, they did not clean it up immediately, and it went through the flooring, through the ceiling in the basement, and onto the floor in the basement. So there was water. I had a handyman help identify that there was water leaking out of basement hot lights. That was extraordinarily infuriating, because on top of ruining potentially thousands of dollars worth of flooring and ceiling, it's time. It's time. So if we, hypothetically speaking, if we sold this house 1 month or 2 months earlier, which was what the kitchen was holding us up for, we probably could have gotten 50 to 100K more.
Oh.
We planned in certain ways to get what we got, but with the craziness of the market, we could have capitalized a little bit. But I would much rather have paid double for my contractors for the kitchen and made 50 to 100K more for the timing and everything else, including not having to touch up the ceilings, the floors, pot lights, and all that stuff. Can you imagine you walk into your house and you got pot lights leaking? And I didn't even know. I had a guy call me. He goes, hey, is it normal for the water to be coming out the pot lights? And I was like, you got me. No, we're good. Don't worry. The kitchen's almost done. He goes, no, seriously. And I go, no, seriously. And he goes, okay, you're going to have to come on site. And I go, that's not funny. And he goes, this is the only way I can tell this to you. Come here right now. Yeah. And I'm like, all right, let's find out. So I come up to the kitchen installer and I'm like, hey, there's water, clean it up. And he goes, sure. He just kind of spreads it around with his hands and he goes, oh, I don't have anything to clean it with. And I'm like, okay, I mean, you should, but no big deal. I'll find you something. I brought a bunch of towels, still didn't clean it up. And I'm like, I was at the point of fully just, like, the kitchen is practically here. We've gone through so many weeks of problems with this kitchen that I'm like, just finish it off. and then they flood it. And to the point where, like, we just did the full basement and it's sagging. And I'm just like, I am going to do something to somebody. So that was a big issue. Like, there were more issues all around, but, like, those were, like, the really big ones. So apart from not being on time, not being not to the standard of my workmanship that I expected, especially with the referral, and then almost flooding the basement. Let's just say there were a lot of little issues, and then I came back to try and fix a whole lot more. But that just goes under the category of touch-ups before selling. But yeah, that was a big issue.
So I guess for you, your probably tip for that, or like how you solve it for next time, is probably finding another person, a different person to do that work so that doesn't happen again. Is that the only solution for that, or what's your solution to make sure that doesn't happen again?
So I'm probably going to update my standard operating procedures because we did for the longest time when we were doing demolition and other work, turn off water and electricity to the house every day, even when you left off site, if the last person to leave the site, even for lunch, turns everything off. I don't need an insurance claim on my flipping insurance. The premiums have already gone up as of 2021. I'm not looking for, a claim against that. But now it's just going to be, hey, when you have any suspicion of competency, just follow your instinct and turn off the damn water. That's all it was. Just turn off the water. If not me, him. If he knows this is possible after I told him and he's not sure in himself, he should have just turned it off. Called me and asked me to turn it off. Anything.
Yeah. Or, but also then you should be hiring someone that knows how to deal with that also.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No. So, yeah, when I spoke to the boss, that was just a little issue. They screwed a bunch of screws right through the inside of the kitchen, through into another room and into the hallway. Like there were like 3 screws sticking out of the ceiling in the basement and stuff like that. I'm like, there's a reason your boss didn't give you 3 screws. Clearly you don't know how to use them. Don't use them. So the water was the biggest deal, but like there's plenty of little things that happened along the way. Like they didn't level the cabinets, so when the countertop came in, it was like 3/4 to 1 inch off. I was like, oh my goodness. And then their solution was not any better. So like overall, the kitchen was a nightmare. I'm really glad that
a good tip, which you did say, is that don't always look at, I don't know if you looked at the lowest price, but don't always look at the lowest price, because that's one thing I was talking with someone else, is that always remembering that when you go for the cheapest, realize
that's what you're getting.
A lot of babysitting. Because when you they're not really like, they're just like labor workers. They don't really think, like they need to be told what to do, because they're not going to think of like the possibilities of what can happen. Like they don't think past of just what they're supposed to do. Whereas like when you're paying more, you're actually paying for that expert advice also to be in there, right? So I think like that's like how
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That's the difference between my conversation with my kitchen guys, or these kitchen guys. They're no longer my kitchen guys, and my electricians. I don't have to have obviously they want some direction, just in case they don't want to assume things. But based on regular reasoning, they will very well make a lot of assumptions that are in line with what I need and what I want. And if I don't tell them, I can expect a certain result, and it's fixable, very fixable. They're like, hey, we didn't know if you want a dimmable switch or a regular switch. No problem. Not a big deal. You'll be back anyway to do the finishing round. Not the end of the world. Kitchen guys, different story. So right now, great relationship with my electrical guys, with my flooring guys, with my tiling guys, with my roofing guys, and with my window guys. Absolutely, I can have as little or as much communication, and the results will be still very professional, and if not ideal, easily fixable. If we're talking about price for the labor, if you're paying a skilled trade, you're going to get it most of the time. I mean, you can always see, anyone will charge you $100 an hour for anything, right? They'll say, yeah, I can do it. But you're right. If you're talking to general labor guys, because you've got the cheapest guys, you're going to be babysitting them. Like I said, I would have paid double to get that thing done way quicker. I would have done it myself. I would have just hired one of my own installers and built a kitchen from one of our cabinet makers and, got it done. But I was going to streamline the process by trying a new contractor. Did not work. We move on. We live and we learn.
Like that's also part of the game, I have to say, right? Because it takes time to build the team and find those good guys. Like you're never going to find it on the first shot. It takes time, especially this is your second flip. So the fact that you already have like half your team that you really like, that's actually pretty amazing in itself. Because usually it does take time to get to know like the right people to get onto the team, so that you can have that trust that they're going to do the work well and, get it done the way you would expect it, right?
Yeah. So, again, it's a conversation with your contractors. I'm GC, so you're subcontractors, but I try and communicate to them right away. When in doubt, just don't mess it up. You can always make it worse, but if you don't make it better, don't make it worse, right? Because I can come in and do something for you or figure out a solution for you if you're not capable, but I can't, I can't put back a wall that you just removed that was supporting, like that you're done, right? Like now we have an issue. the roof is sagging, everything is sagging, right? It's that kind of stuff. So I'm very grateful for all my contractors, and I pay them asking, if not more. I don't haggle with them. I will ask for solutions for monetary problems. Like, hey, you know, that flooring is way too expensive for this flip. This is not that kind of flip. I know it's a great price for what you're getting. This is not that. Is there another way? And they go, yeah, here you go. This is what we think. So use your contractors, but make sure you reward them for it. Whereas just on a general basis, don't go for your lowest number guy. Go for the second lowest at bare minimum. You want to be in a specific range, but this guy overpromised and way under-delivered. And regardless of COVID, regardless of anything else, the communication was not there. Other things were not there. I'm not going to say that they're terrible humans because they couldn't control something that was not in their control. But I still expect, just like you would expect, a certain amount of professionalism from an employer to a contractor to someone you're paying. So do I, right? And I come from a contracting background, which is why I expect certain things. And if you're working for a contractor, it's a little bit harder too, because we know what to look for, like in the details. When you're like, oh my goodness, like if only he didn't see that, I wouldn't have to come by another 2 days and fix my own thing that I could have done right. But that's where, you know, I can make a call and I know that within a day I have a quote or I have my materials ready. Whereas you, well, maybe not yourself because you're also into flipping, but you know, whereas the regular person, my neighbors, if they called for a kitchen, flooring or anything else, they're waiting 3, 4, 5, 6 months, right? I'm waiting, like my countertop came in just over 24 hours after the kitchen was installed, right? That's great. On my previous flip, I waited 10 days from the day cabinets were installed.
Relationship building that happens, right? Or finding the right people, either or both. Because like that, yeah, when even same thing, we have some guys where we call them and we're like, hey, we need this like tomorrow. That because we treat them on everything, they will go and get it done tomorrow. They'll like move their things around to get it done because we've had that relationship. Like that, definitely treating people well is so important, especially in this game. You know, it's very important. In the business world in general, but it's just like even in this a lot more because I feel like people always, you know, you always hear stories about contractors or renovation workers doing like terrible work. So I feel like in here it's even more important, you know, because yeah, it's just I don't know. So like even like you're saying about the because sometimes also people are just amazing talkers and they're really good at selling, but then the product doesn't come out so good and you're like, what happened?
No, I'm good at the selling part too, I think. I'm not too bad with building and painting pictures and dreams, but you know, if I'm painting it, I need to be on point to deliver. And that's exactly what I expect out of my contractors. If you tell me you can do it, make sure you can do it. I'm not saying you can't learn how to like, you know, fish a wire through somewhere that you've never done before. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying, like, be upfront. If you don't know how to do something, I might be able to figure out a solution and you can be the hands to do it. But be upfront about it. Like, kitchen example, back to that kitchen. He said, 2 weeks, you'll have your kitchen. And I said, 2 weeks from right now, he goes, in 2 weeks, starting from tomorrow, because tomorrow we'll sign the contract, you will have a kitchen installed. And I said, that sounds too good to be true, but I've heard that the previous guy who he did it for got it in 10 days or 9 days. And I was like, I mean, I trust you and you clearly use this person. So, okay, maybe let's see what we got. We were close to like 8 weeks, maybe more.
Oh, wow.
Actually, no, not a full 8 weeks, but still, wait, like not nowhere near 2 weeks.
Well, I mean, when you're comparing it to 2 weeks, that's like, even I feel like doubling it 4 weeks, hitting 6 weeks. That just looks bad. I mean, but if you look at it, for example, like right now, normally cabinets are between 4 to 6 weeks regular, right? So if they were just up front and it was like, oh, okay, it's going to take 6 weeks, and then it was 8 weeks, that doesn't seem so bad. But the fact that you're like 2 weeks and then it's 8 weeks, now you just ruined a relationship there because it's just like you weren't being upfront. You were just trying to get the deal. And that's probably what happened, right? He's just trying to get the sale. So it's like, yeah, I can do it in a week, you know, like whatever, just do your business. But what happened? He's not going to get your continued business now.
Exactly. So they right away said, "Oh, Mr. Terry, don't worry about it. We'll get it done right the next time." And I said, "Done right should have been the first time. You came back 3 times to touch up, not even to finish, to touch up the kitchen. That is not acceptable in my books." Like, don't get me wrong. I want to give everybody the opportunity to fix their mistakes and to live up to an expectation. But there's a line, right? You know.
There's some mistakes that, or it's just, I think it's just or it's not really a mistake. Like it's almost I mean, it's kind of like a lie, right? Because it's like they said 2 weeks, like, I don't know, went from 2 weeks to 8 weeks. Like you're just losing trust right there. You know, it's the trust factor,
So
right?
like I said, I could in that time frame. That's 2 months, right? Almost a full 2 months. It wasn't a full 8 weeks, but regardless, that's the difference of dollars, not only in holding costs, but in actual like profits. Like
Well,
I'm not,
even
I take
like that
responsibility.
delayed another part of the house. Like it can delay other things too, depending on what stage of the house you're in. It
Yeah,
could delay other things too. So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just,
yeah.
yeah, like the impact can definitely be significant for sure.
So again, which is why you pad your numbers. I was very fortunate to be a little,
To be conservative.
how do I say this? I was a little fortunate to be a little bit scared. And that little bit of stress was like, no, 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 I'm going to pad my numbers a little more, then a little more, and a little more. And then, so when I present flips to partners, they're like, are we really only going to make 30K on that? And I'm just like, well, I mean, like we could make 100, but I padded my numbers so that we don't
Like that
lose.
becomes like the worst case scenario. Because I'm the same
Yeah,
way, actually. Like I remember
yeah.
I was talking to a guy. It was really funny. I was like, he asked for advice, and he's like, "Oh yeah, like I'm gonna be making." He's like, "I want to get your advice. Like I want to know what all the expenses," because it was his first flip, right?
Hmm.
And he was like so excited about his numbers, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be making like 80K, and it's just a hotel." And I was like, "Whoa, that's amazing! Like, okay,
Yeah,
tell me your numbers, right?" And then I started like, okay, you should probably do for this and for that and for this. And in the end, it was like something like 20K. That was the actual profits, right? Like our estimated was 20K. And then he was like so depressed. He's like, all that work and just gonna get 20K. I'm like, it's a hotel and your worst case scenario is 20K. I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
so all
yeah.
you can do is do better. Right. And then afterwards it was like a little bit better, but it was just funny because usually like, oh, I have to think about that. I have to think about this. I have to think about,
Yeah,
and like,
yeah,
wow, like you're missing like half this stuff. No wonder you thought this was an easy, like, whoop, 80K
yeah,
and I'm done, you know?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. Same thing. When I present my numbers to my partners, I'm doing it at a certain percent, and if we can get a better rate, absolutely we'll do it. But they're like, oh my goodness, like I'll show them like a 5% or an 8% interest rate calculated on the spreadsheet, but where we know we can get closer to 4 to 3 to 2.8, and they're like, oh, whoa, no, I would never buy a house at 8%. Like, are you kidding me? My payments are going to be ridiculous. And I'm like, hold on. Remember, you're only doing this for 3 to 6 months, not 25 years. You're not even paying that percentage in a year. Like, you do know that your cost is the difference of $500 a month for 3, 4, 5 months. You're still making this much. Like, I don't see the. So yeah. Anyway, numbers are very important. Every step of the way is very important. Like, people don't realize how much work it goes into it. Like, I swear I thought I was going to go grade and then bulb during the time of the kitchen. Like,
but it's a great learning experience and it's your second flip, which is amazing. And both of them, you've profited very well from them.
yeah, yeah,
And and it's just and all these learning experiences, like future ones, they won't happen and your problems will be different. You'll be having different problems. You'll be having more, for example, in the future, I'm sure you'll be having more business problems than renovation problems because by then
yeah,
you'll have like a solid team where it's like you don't even have to go there very often because you just trust them and you're going to be more in like probably the expansion problems will be like the next phase of things, you know? So it's like I think to finish this off, and you can give your point is that when you're doing like flips, don't get discouraged that we're talking about all these problems. We're talking one for you to realize what problems can come up so you can foresee them for yourself, learn from our mistakes,
yeah.
and then also just realize that yeah, problems happen, but if you do things right, have a mentor or just like know what you're doing, like you did contracting, so you at least know the cost of things. You're still gonna come out winning. Like you'll come out with a few gray hairs, but you're still gonna come out winning, and you're gonna continue learning. And the worse the mistake, the better the more chances you will learn from that, and it won't happen in the future because it really, hit hard this time, and it will never happen again.
Yeah, exactly. That's the main thing. So I'm going to show you what it kind of ties into this, where not only are you going to be stronger because you know the solution, but you're going to be able to overcome it because you've already done it and you know you're going to do it again. Mr. Mark Smith, I don't know if anybody can read that.
Yeah, mindset is everything.
Yeah. So if I'm telling you, like, I thought it was going to go great and then balls just with that kitchen. If I didn't have any kind of either why, deeper purpose, any kind of resilience or thick skin, I'm sure I would have walked out. It's either them or me, right? And I'm just like, I'm done with it. I'm out, right? But you can't, right? No one's going to bail you out. You're only doing this for you. The way I'm looking at it is, if I continue to push at my current scale, I'll be, one of the things that I want to work to is development. So I'll be developing and building, and that's the problem I want to have. I want to have $100,000 problem, not a 7,000 or 10,000 or 12,000 kitchen problem. Like, like where we damage some stuff. Like, it's gonna happen. You just gotta know how to deal with it. And I want to, like, you gotta work through it, right? You're gonna have to solve problems in order to attract money, to attract clients, to attract good working people, to attract contractors, to attract investors, to attract just to move forward. And I'm absolutely expecting that. And I know before starting a deal what I'm willing to give up, how much work I'm willing to put in, and so on and so on. Like, I stayed on a Sunday night when I found out that the inspector is coming in on a Monday morning at 10 a.m. I stayed at the project house till 1 a.m. on a Sunday night trying to fix anything that may even remotely cause an issue, right? Mm-hmm. That's the dedication I have, and that's the dedication my investors expect, which is why when they hear, oh, 30K, when you round it off, they're like, oh, that's not worth my time. That's not worth my opportunity cost. That's not worth, whatever it is. And then they go, okay, well, he's padded his numbers. He's dedicated, that's the minimum what we're making. He's had the experience. We heard last time his contractor screwed him. I bet he's got better contractors this time, and so on and so on and so on. And then the best case scenario, and you pull out $120,000, that's not bad. My understanding is typically guys make maybe 20, 30, 40K. I mean, I understand that this took a little bit longer, but even if you double the math, we're in the green. And I want not only myself and the people around me to know that, but you and anybody who's watching, and also my investors to know that. And it's like you said, we're not here to scare anybody. But if I knew the things that I know today, 6 months ago when this project started, I'm sure I would have been in a better position, and I would have gladly paid anybody to tell me how to fix it. But you pay either upfront, in time, or in hard-earned lessons. You're going to do it some way.
100%. Thanks so much for coming on. It was really great to hear your how your flip went and how you're succeeding. Your second flip, and you're doing so well. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I was happy to be here. Happy to show everybody the fruit of our labor. And if you'll have me, absolutely, I'd be ecstatic to show you the next one.
Oh yeah, for sure. You're always welcome. We love seeing your projects.
Thank you.
And it shows you how you're growing too. Soon we'll probably do a compilation of all your projects so you can see like your growth.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all for it.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Thank you everyone for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed Read Behind the Scenes with Terry. Bye everyone. Bye Terry.